Good morning, afternoon, evening, everyone. Today, I want to talk about something many of us struggle with: giving too much of ourselves to others at the cost of our own well being. There's a saying, don't set yourself on fire to keep others warm. It's a powerful reminder that while kindness and selflessness are virtues, they should not come at the expense of our own happiness, health, and peace of mind. The phrase, don't set yourself on fire to keep others warm, is a metaphorical yet powerful statement that highlights the dangers of self sacrifice at an extreme level. It suggests that while it is noble to help others, it should not come at the expense of our own well being. Just like fire, which provides warmth and light, but can also burn and consume itself if not managed properly, our energy, emotions, and resources are finite. If we continuously give and give without replenishing ourselves, we will eventually burn out, leaving nothing for ourselves or even those we intended to help. Too often we find ourselves in situations where we feel obligated to meet everyone's expectations, take care of others' needs, and offer emotional or physical support even when we are running on empty. Society has long praised selflessness as a virtue, but there is a thin line between being kind and being self-destructive. Many of us fall into the habit of constantly putting others first, whether it's our family, friends, colleagues, or even strangers, sometimes without realizing the toll it takes on us. Consider the simple example of a candle. A candle burns itself to provide light for others, but once it is completely consumed, it ceases to exist. Likewise, if we continuously sacrifice our time, health, and mental peace for others without taking care of ourselves, we will be left depleted. When a person keeps ignoring their own needs, whether it's rest, peace, or personal growth, they begin to lose their sense of self. Their identity may start revolving around the needs of others, making them feel trapped in a cycle of constant giving without receiving anything in return. Moreover, this phrase is particularly relevant in today's fast-pacing world where people are often burdened with multiple responsibilities. Many individuals are caregivers, parents, employees, or leaders who feel responsible for ensuring the well-being of those around them. While their intentions are good, if they do not take a step back and evaluate their own well-being, they may soon find themselves overwhelmed. The emotional exhaustion that results from always being available for others can lead to stress, depression, and even physical health issues. Another important aspect of this phrase is the idea that people sometimes mistake self-sacrifice for love, duty, or loyalty. In relationships, whether romantic, familial, or friendships, some individuals believe that proving their care and affection means always being available, always saying yes, and always putting the other person first. However, this mindset can create an unhealthy dynamic where one person keeps giving while the other keeps taking. Over time, this imbalance leads to resentment, frustration, and a sense of being unappreciated. The key to truly understanding this phrase lies in recognizing that self-care is not selfish, it is necessary. It is not wrong to care for others, but it is equally important to care for yourself. No one should feel guilty for prioritizing their own needs, setting boundaries, or stepping away from toxic relationships that drain their energy. Understanding this concept allows us to lead healthier, more fulfilling lives, where kindness is balanced with self-respect. In a world that often measures worth by productivity and self-sacrifice, many people find themselves constantly overextending in different aspects of life, whether in their careers, personal relationships, or responsibilities at home. It is common to feel obligated to say yes to every request, to be the person who always steps up, and to shoulder burdens that are sometimes not even our own. While helping others and being reliable are admirable qualities, they can become dangerous when they begin to take a toll on our own mental, emotional, and physical well-being. One of the biggest risks of overextending yourself is burnout. Burnout is a state of emotional, physical, and mental exhaustion caused by prolonged and excessive stress. It happens when you feel overwhelmed, emotionally drained, and unable to meet constant demands. Many people associate burnout with work, but it can happen in any area of life: relationships, caregiving, friendships, or even community obligations. The more you give without replenishing yourself, the more you deplete your own reserves, eventually reaching a breaking point where even simple tasks feel exhausting. Overextending yourself can also lead to chronic stress and anxiety. When you take on too much, your body remains in a constant state of stress, releasing cortisol and other stress hormones that can affect your health. This can lead to physical symptoms such as headaches, insomnia, weakened immunity, and digestive issues. Over time, chronic stress may contribute to more serious conditions such as high blood pressure, heart disease, and other health problems. Emotionally, the weight of constant obligations can make you feel like you are drowning with no time or energy left for yourself. Another consequence of overextending yourself is resentment. When you continuously put others' needs before your own, it may feel fulfilling at first, but eventually frustration and resentment can build up. You may start feeling unappreciated, undervalued, or even taken for granted. The people you help may not even realize the toll it is taking on you because you have conditioned them to expect your constant support. This can create an unhealthy dynamic where you feel obligated to keep giving, even when you no longer have the energy to do so. Additionally, overextending yourself can damage your personal relationships. While you may believe that always being available for others strengthens relationships, it can actually have the opposite effect. If you are constantly exhausted, emotionally drained, or stressed, you may not be fully present in your interactions. Your patience may wear thin, you may become irritable, or you may start avoiding people altogether because you simply have nothing left to give. This can lead to misunderstandings, conflicts, and a feeling of isolation. In some cases, people overextend themselves due to guilt or a need for validation. Many individuals feel that they must constantly prove their worth by doing things for others. They believe that saying no makes them selfish, or that they are only valuable if they are constantly giving. This mindset can be especially prevalent in people pleasers, those who derive their self-worth from being liked and needed by others. However, seeking validation through self-sacrifice is an unsustainable and harmful way to build self-esteem. True self-worth comes from within, not from how much you do for others. Furthermore, when you overextend yourself, you risk losing sight of your own goals, dreams, and personal growth. If you are always prioritizing others, you may have little time left to focus on your own aspirations. You might put off things that matter to you, whether it's pursuing an education, developing a skill, or simply having time to relax and reflect. Over time, this can lead to feelings of unfulfillment and regret. Life should be a balance between helping others and nurturing yourself. Recognizing the dangers of overextending yourself is the first step toward making healthier choices. While it is good to be supportive and helpful, it is just as important to ensure that you are not neglecting your own needs in the process. Boundaries are one of the most crucial aspects of maintaining a healthy and balanced life. They define the limits of what we are willing to accept from others in terms of behavior, expectations, and obligations. Without boundaries, we risk becoming overwhelmed, drained, and even manipulated. The phrase, "don't set yourself on fire to keep others warm," directly ties into the need for setting boundaries, as it reminds us that we cannot continue to give endlessly without considering our own well-being. Establishing and maintaining clear boundaries is not an act of selfishness. It is an act of self-respect and self-care. One of the biggest reasons people struggle with boundaries is the fear of disappointing others. Many of us have been conditioned to believe that saying no is rude or selfish. From a young age, we are often taught to be helpful, accommodating, and agreeable. While these traits can be valuable, they can also make it difficult for people to stand up for themselves when they are being taken advantage of. This leads to a pattern where individuals overextend themselves out of guilt or obligation even when it negatively impacts their health and happiness. When we fail to set boundaries, we invite exploitation and emotional exhaustion. Without clear limits, people, whether intentionally or unintentionally, will keep taking from us. This can happen in friendships, family dynamics, the workplace, or romantic relationships. If you constantly say yes to extra work, to unreasonable requests, or to people who drain your energy, you are allowing others to dictate how your time and energy are spent. Over time, this erodes your sense of control over your own life. One of the greatest benefits of setting boundaries is that they protect your mental and emotional well-being. Imagine a house with no fences or locks. Anyone can walk in and take whatever they want. Your personal energy, time, and emotions are just as valuable as any material possession, and they deserve to be guarded. When you establish boundaries, you are telling others that your needs, comfort, and peace of mind matter. You are prioritizing your health instead of constantly stretching yourself thin to accommodate everyone else's needs. Another important aspect of boundaries is that they improve the quality of your relationships. Contrary to what some people believe, setting boundaries does not push people away. It actually fosters healthier connections. When you communicate your limits, you create relationships that are built on mutual respect and understanding. True friends, partners, and colleagues will respect your boundaries. The people who react negatively to your boundaries are often the ones who benefited from you not having any in the first place. A major challenge in boundary setting is learning how to say no without guilt. Many people struggle with guilt when they refuse a request, even when they know it is necessary for their well-being. They fear being seen as unkind or unhelpful. However, saying no is not an act of cruelty, it is an act of self-preservation. A well-placed no allows you to say yes to the things that truly matter rather than being overwhelmed by commitments that drain you. Another key element of boundaries is consistency. Setting boundaries once is not enough. You must enforce them consistently. If you allow exceptions every time someone pressures you, your boundaries become meaningless. People will test your limits, especially if they are used to you always being available. It is important to remain firm, even if it feels uncomfortable at first. The more you reinforce your boundaries, the more natural it will become, and others will begin to respect them. There is also a misconception that boundaries are only necessary in negative situations. In reality, boundaries are essential in every aspect of life. even with the people closest to you, family, best friends, or a romantic partner. Boundaries help maintain a healthy dynamic. Without them, relationships can become suffocating, one-sided, or emotionally exhausting. Setting boundaries does not mean shutting people out. It means creating a structure where both individuals feel valued and respected. Ultimately, setting boundaries is about recognizing your own worth. You are not obligated to exhaust yourself for others, nor should you feel guilty for protecting your peace. Boundaries empower you to take control of your life, ensuring that you are not constantly drained or overwhelmed by the expectations of others. One of the biggest misconceptions people have is that taking care of themselves is selfish. Many individuals feel guilty for prioritizing their own well-being because they have been conditioned to believe that putting others first is the ultimate virtue. However, self-care is not an act of selfishness. It is a necessity. Just as a car cannot run on an empty tank, a person cannot function at their best if they are constantly drained, exhausted, and emotionally depleted. Self-care is often misunderstood as indulgence, such as taking a vacation, getting a spa treatment, or spending a lazy day at home. While those are valid forms of self-care, the concept goes much deeper. True self-care is about maintaining your physical, emotional, and mental well-being so that you can function at your best. It means recognizing your limits, setting boundaries, taking breaks when needed, and making choices that support your health and happiness. One of the most important aspects of self-care is acknowledging your own needs without guilt. Many people, especially caregivers, parents, and highly empathetic individuals, struggle with the idea of putting themselves first. They believe that their worth is tied to how much they do for others, and as a result, they neglect their own well-being. However, constantly sacrificing yourself does not make you a better person. It makes you a more exhausted and emotionally worn-out person. When you ignore your own needs for too long, you may find yourself feeling resentful, unfulfilled, or even physically ill. Self-care is also about recognizing when to rest. In today's fast-paced society, many people glorify overworking and pushing themselves beyond their limits. The idea of hustle culture has convinced people that rest is a luxury rather than a necessity. However, studies have shown that chronic stress and lack of rest lead to serious health problems, including heart disease, anxiety, and depression. Rest is not a weakness. It is a vital part of maintaining a healthy and productive life. Just like a phone battery needs to be recharged to function properly, you need time to rest and recharge in order to operate at your best. Another key element of self-care is emotional and mental well-being. Many people focus on physical self-care such as eating healthy and exercising, but they neglect their emotional health. Taking care of your mental state means setting boundaries with toxic people, allowing yourself to process emotions, seeking support when needed, and engaging in activities that bring you joy and fulfillment. It is okay to take a break from people who drain your energy. It is okay to say no to things that overwhelm you. It is okay to ask for help when you need it. Your mental and emotional health are just as important as your physical health. Self-care also involves prioritizing personal growth and self-improvement. Many people get so caught up in taking care of others that they forget about their own dreams and goals. Self-care is about making time for things that bring meaning to your life, whether that is reading, learning a new skill, pursuing a hobby, or simply spending time alone to reflect. When you invest in yourself, you are not only improving your own life, but you are also becoming a stronger, healthier, and happier person for those around you. One major reason people avoid self-care is because they feel guilty for taking time for themselves. They believe that if they are not constantly working or helping others, they are being unproductive or lazy. However, this mindset is harmful and unsustainable. Self-care is not about neglecting responsibilities. It is about ensuring that you have the energy and strength to meet those responsibilities without breaking yourself in the process. You cannot pour from an empty cup. When you take care of yourself first, you are in a much better position to support and care for others. Furthermore, practicing self-care teaches others how to treat you. When you set boundaries and prioritize your well-being, you send a message that your needs matter. People who respect you will understand and support your decision to take care of yourself. On the other hand, those who only valued you for what you could give may react negatively. But that is a reflection of their selfishness, not your wrongdoing. At its core, self-care is about respecting yourself enough to prioritize your health, happiness, and peace of mind. It is not an act of selfishness, but rather an essential part of living a balanced and fulfilling life. One of the hardest yet most necessary steps in protecting your well-being is recognizing and addressing toxic relationships. Many people unknowingly set themselves on fire to keep others warm, believing that they must tolerate unhealthy relationships out of obligation, love, or however, constantly sacrificing your own emotional and mental health for the sake of maintaining a relationship, whether it's with a friend, family member, romantic partner, or co-worker, is neither sustainable nor healthy. Toxic relationships come in many forms, and they are not always easy to identify. Some relationships are overtly toxic with clear signs of manipulation, verbal abuse, or exploitation. Others are more subtle, involving emotional exhaustion, guilt-tripping, passive-aggressive behavior, or one-sided support. These relationships often leave you feeling drained, anxious, and undervalued, yet you may struggle to walk away because of emotional attachment, fear of confrontation, or a sense of duty. One major sign of a toxic relationship is a constant imbalance in effort and support. Healthy relationships, whether friendships, romantic partnerships, or family bonds, are based on mutual respect, care, and effort. However, in toxic relationships, one person is usually the giver while the other is the taker. If you find yourself always being the one who listens, supports, helps, and compromises while receiving little to no effort in return, it may be a sign that the relationship is unhealthy. Relationships should not feel like emotional labor that only one person is responsible for maintaining. Another red flag is emotional manipulation and guilt-tripping. Toxic individuals often use guilt as a tool to control and manipulate others. They may make you feel as though you are selfish or uncaring if you don't constantly prioritize them. For example, they might say things like, "After everything I've done for you, you're really going to say no?" Or, "If you really care about me, you would do this for me." These tactics are designed to make you feel responsible for their emotions and actions, even when their demands are unreasonable. Toxic relationships can also be draining and emotionally exhausting. Pay attention to how you feel after interacting with certain people. Do you feel uplifted, valued, and supported? Or do you feel exhausted, anxious, and depleted? Healthy relationships should add to your life, not take away from it. If you frequently feel like you are walking on eggshells, trying to avoid conflict, or constantly justifying someone else's behavior, it may be a sign that the relationship is negatively affecting your well-being. Another important sign of toxicity is a lack of respect for boundaries. If someone continuously disregards your feelings, pressures you into doing things you are uncomfortable with, or refuses to respect your personal space, they are showing a lack of regard for your well-being. Boundaries are essential for any healthy relationship, and someone who truly values you will respect them rather than push against them. Some toxic relationships are deeply ingrained in family dynamics, making them even harder to recognize and break away from. Many people feel obligated to maintain close relationships with family members who belittle, manipulate, or take advantage of them because they were raised with the belief that family is everything. While family bonds are important, they should not come at the cost of your mental and emotional health. Just because someone is related to you by blood does not mean you have to tolerate harmful behavior. It is okay to distance yourself from family members who continually hurt or disrespect you. Toxic relationships can also appear in friendships and social circles. Sometimes, long-term friendships become unhealthy over time, especially if one person becomes controlling, envious, or overly dependent on the other. A true friend should celebrate your successes, respect your boundaries, and be there for you when you need support, not just when it is convenient for them. If a friendship feels like a one-sided emotional burden, it may be time to reassess its value in your life. Workplace relationships can also be toxic, especially when dealing with manipulative colleagues or bosses. If you find yourself constantly overworked, undervalued, or pressured to meet unrealistic demands without recognition or appreciation, it could be a sign of an unhealthy work environment. Toxic work relationships often lead to burnout, stress, and even physical health issues. While quitting a job is not always an immediate option, recognizing workplace toxicity is the first step in finding ways to protect yourself, whether that means setting boundaries, seeking support, or eventually transitioning to a healthier work environment. One of the hardest aspects of recognizing toxic relationships is acknowledging when it is time to walk away. Many people hold on to unhealthy relationships out of fear of loneliness, change, or confrontation. However, staying in a toxic situation out of fear only prolongs your suffering. It is important to understand that letting go of toxic relationships is not about being unkind or unforgiving. It is about protecting your peace, mental health, and overall happiness. Ultimately, recognizing toxic relationships is about valuing yourself enough to step away from people who drain, manipulate, or disrespect you. You deserve to be surrounded by individuals who uplift, support, and appreciate you, not those who take advantage of your kindness. Saying no is one of the most powerful skills a person can develop. Many people struggle with saying no because they fear disappointing others, being seen as selfish, or damaging relationships. However, constantly saying yes to everything and everyone comes at a great cost. It can lead to burnout, resentment, and emotional exhaustion. Learning to say no is not about being rude or unkind. It is about recognizing your limits and protecting your time, energy, and well-being. One of the biggest challenges people face when it comes to saying no is the fear of rejection or disapproval. From an early age, many of us are taught that being agreeable and accommodating is the key to being liked. As a result, we grow up believing that saying no makes us difficult, uncooperative, or even unkind. This mindset can be especially strong in people pleasers. those who feel an intense need to be liked and validated by others. People pleasers often find themselves taking on tasks they do not want to do, attending events they have no interest in, and making sacrifices they cannot afford, all because they are afraid of upsetting others. However, it is important to understand that saying no does not make you a bad person. It simply means you are prioritizing your well-being. Another reason people hesitate to say no is the guilt that often comes with it. Many individuals feel a deep sense of responsibility for the happiness and comfort of others, which makes them reluctant to turn down requests. They may think, if I don't help, who will? Or I don't want to seem selfish. However, guilt is not a valid reason to keep saying yes when it is at the expense of your own mental and emotional health. True kindness does not come from self-sacrifice. It comes from a place of balance, where you help others without depleting yourself. Saying no is also difficult because of social pressure and expectations. In many cultures, there is an unspoken expectation that we should always be available to help family, friends, and colleagues. For example, in some workplaces, employees are expected to stay late, take on extra work, or be constantly available outside of office hours. In families, there may be an expectation to always prioritize the needs of parents, siblings, or extended relatives, even if it causes personal hardship. Social norms can make it feel like saying no is unacceptable, but the truth is that constantly saying yes to others often means saying no to yourself. One of the greatest benefits of learning to say no is gaining control over your own time and energy. Time is one of the most valuable resources we have, and once it is spent, we can never get it back. Every time you say yes to something you do not want to do, you are giving away a portion of your time that could have been spent on things that truly matter to you. This is why it is essential to be mindful of what you commit to. Before agreeing to something, ask yourself, is this something I truly want to do? Do I have the time and energy for this? Will this contribute to my well-being or take away from it? If the answer is no, then you should feel empowered to decline. Another reason why saying no is powerful is because it reinforces your boundaries. When you say no, you are communicating to others that you have limits and that your time, energy, and well-being matter. People who respect you will understand and accept your decision, while those who become upset or try to pressure you are often the ones who benefited from your lack of boundaries. Over time, consistently saying no when necessary will teach others to respect your limits and recognize that you are not someone who can be easily manipulated or taken advantage of. Learning how to say no effectively is just as important as the decision itself. Many people struggle with finding the right words to decline requests without feeling awkward or guilty. A common mistake is over-explaining or justifying their refusal, which can invite further pressure or negotiation. Instead of long-winded excuses, a simple and firm, "I'm sorry, but I can't commit to that right now," is often enough. Other ways to say no politely include, "I appreciate you thinking of me, but I won't be able to help this time. I have other commitments right now, so I can't take this on. That doesn't work for me, but I hope you find someone who can assist. I need to prioritize my own well-being, so I'll have to decline." Another effective strategy is using the delay technique when you need more time to think before committing. If someone makes a request and you feel pressure to say yes, you can respond with, "Let me check my schedule and get back to you." This gives you time to evaluate whether you truly want to say yes or if you are just feeling pressured. Saying no also becomes easier with practice, and confidence. The first few times you turn someone down, you might feel uncomfortable, especially if you are used to always saying yes. However, the more you do it, the more empowered you will feel. Over time, you will realize that saying no does not make you a bad person, and most people will respect your decision far more than you anticipated. Perhaps the most important lesson in learning to say no is understanding that you do not owe anyone an explanation for prioritizing yourself. You have the right to protect your energy, focus on your goals, and live a life that aligns with your values. By saying no when necessary, you create space for the things that truly matter: your health, your happiness, and your personal growth. Setting boundaries is one of the most important acts of self-respect and self-care. Yet, many people struggle with it. Boundaries define what is acceptable and unacceptable in our relationships, work, and daily lives. They help protect our time, energy, emotional well-being, and personal space. However, because many people fear disappointing others or being perceived as selfish, they often fail to establish or enforce healthy boundaries, leading to exhaustion, resentment, and even burnout. Boundaries are essential because they help us maintain a sense of identity and self-worth. When we constantly allow others to overstep our limits, we send the message, both to ourselves and to those around us, that our needs are secondary. Over time, this can lead to a loss of self-respect and a feeling of being used or taken for granted. On the other hand, when we set clear boundaries, we affirm our right to be treated with respect and consideration. We communicate that our time, emotions, and personal space matter just as much as anyone else's. One of the biggest misconceptions about boundaries is that they push people away or create distance in relationships.